sponsored by 666bet.com.
Coogan Kansas for IFL TV in association with Matchroom USA and 666bet. We're at Tower Hill today for the press conference for capital punishment. With me, I've got Eddie Hearn. I'm last.
I know, and it's late.
It's very late.
It's been a long day, so I'm not going to keep it too long. Half an hour in.
Right, capital punishment. Pretty decent show, to be honest.
You like it?
I like it.
Good.
Some
We're
good.
not quite done yet. We've got one more fight for Ryder to announce. Hopefully Highland. Hopefully. But it wasn't done, so I could have announced it today, but until it's signed and agreed, I won't be. So fingers crossed we can get that made. Great fight for Ryder. Tough fight.
Start with Anthony Joshua and Kevin Johnson. Kevin Johnson, well, he lit the press conference up today.
But that's one of the reasons why he's here. You know, he's got a long camp. He fancies his chance. He's got Dylan White in his ear, trying to tell him how to beat Anthony Joshua. He's going to give it a go. I don't think you'll see Johnson necessarily fight the way he has been when he's been on short notice. I think if you try and, you know, move and survive against Anthony Joshua, you're in a world of trouble. So, be interesting. But he's in good spirits and a big name, and we've seen that translate in the ticket sales. You know, people are excited about this fight in the night.
Never been knocked out, never been stopped in his career.
Tick tough.
Opponents include obviously Chisora, Fury, Klitschko. What would that say to the heavyweight world if Joshua was to stop him?
I think most people are expecting Joshua to stop him, which I think is a testament to how they rate Anthony Joshua.
Are you expecting him to stop him?
You know, Johnson's a bit like Audley, isn't he? I mean, you listen to him today and you think, I was half thinking at some point, I said to Joshua during the press conference, maybe we shouldn't have given him as much notice. But I think he could take Joshua the distance. Yeah, I do. I think a fit Johnson can take Joshua the distance. It's a different ball game when you've got speed and power, you know, and youth. You know, Joshua's not Derek Chisora, you know. So I think he's got a chance to stop him, but I think if Johnson's motivated, I think he'll see it out.
If Joshua doesn't stop him, does that tell us something else about Anthony Joshua that we didn't know previously?
Well, no, it means that he's done some rounds. I mean, you're only comparing the likes of Klitschko, Fury, you know, Chisora, Char, that haven't stopped him. So, you know, Anthony's still 10-0. I think it's more impressive, obviously, if he doesn't stop him, he doesn't stop him. Kevin Johnson's durable. If he stops him, it's a statement.
What did you make of the whole bet thing? Is that even allowed?
It's confusing. You know what I mean?
So 50%?
It's charity. If Anthony knocks Johnson out, Johnson puts 50% to charity.
Of his choice.
And if Johnson knocks Joshua out, the same.
Is that allowed?
For charity, I'm not really big on this betting thing. You know, we saw it the other week with Eubank Saunders, and it's been around for years. But like Joshua just said, I don't play with my money. I'm just, you know, but I think he was a bit over his head.
But he didn't look like he was expecting that sort of second outburst.
Basically, Josh Johnson was telling him, "I'm going to knock you out."
Yeah.
I think it sort of after Anthony by surprise. But he sounded legit, Johnson. I mean, he sounded like he believed it. So we'll see at the O2 Arena.
Okay, moving on. Great fight, Kevin Mitchell versus Daniel Estrada. We see Daniel Estrada against Omar Figueroa on the undercard of Brook Porter, and his game.
He's a good fighter.
He nearly stopped Figueroa.
Yeah, I think the 5th or 6th round. It's a great fight for Kevin. You know, it's been difficult because obviously he messed up at Wembley, not making the check weight with the IBF. Beat Maduma in a great performance. Should have been mandatory for Vasquez. I believe he could have beaten him. We saw Mickey Bay beat him. And I've been looking for a route, and it's taken me a little bit of time. You know, he had an injury as well, Kevin, and now we found the WBC route. The convention's next week. We've applied for the fight to be a final eliminator for the winner of Linares against Prieto. I believe we'll get that. I think Kevin's going to beat Estrada, and I think he can beat Linares, who I think will beat Prieto. So I just want to get Kevin a world title shot, you know. I know he's had one before, but I don't think he's been as determined as this before and worked as hard as this before. So I'd like to deliver one, even though he's at the back end of his career. But yeah, Mitchell against Estrada is a wonderful fight.
Two good domestic fights on the bill as well, in Boyd and Martin, Gudjon and Hibbert.
Yeah.
50-50s down the line, yeah.
I mean, I don't know who do you fancy for those, but good banter, a lot of rivalry, means the world to them. And let's be honest, if you know the loser's not going to go on, to box at premium domestic level. So ultimately, the winner will crack on British Commonwealths. But it's a big fight for Tommy Martin. You know, he's only 21, and for Boylan as well, he can't really afford to lose. He's just lost to Goodjohn. So there's a lot of needle on those fights and a lot on the line. Really good fights.
My sources tell me that you've sold a good amount of tickets for this show already.
Yeah, we've done 6,000 already. So, you know, that might not sound like a lot to some people, but we're going to do 10,000 for this show, I believe. When you consider that the last O2 show did about 5,500 sales.
You've already topped that.
And we've got 8 weeks to go. So it's good. It's really encouraging, and it's January. So I don't just think that's reflective on the quality of the show. It's very good, by the way. But I think boxing's just buzzing. You know, I get so many people stopping me in the street saying, "Oh, mate, boxing,
Picture.
I'm loving boxing." What?
Picture.
No, just saying I'm loving boxing again. Oh, you know, and I think that's the truth. I think boxing is becoming sexy again, mainly because of you. You're bringing sexy back.
So also on the bill, obviously, O'Hara Davis and Isaac Chamberlain making his debut as well, and
Charlie Edwards.
Obviously, Charlie Edwards,
GB podium squad member.
Yeah.
For Matchroom. You know, you've got to look at the team we're putting together. I know everyone looks at now, but imagine in 2 or 3 years the fighters that we've got coming through. And it's about building for the future. You know, we don't just want to be number one now. We want to be number one for 3-5 years. So we've got the team to make sure that happens.
Obviously, we know that you were in LA recently. I want to know everything that happened.
Well, I flew into LA,
Yeah.
landed at about 7 o'clock, went to the hotel, Santa Monica, very nice. Went for a run when I got there. Woke up, went for another run on the beach, lovely.
You can just skip to when you met Al Haymon if you want.
Had a couple of meetings, then met Al, me and Al, you know. And it was great. You know, obviously, people told me how lucky I was to get a couple of hours with him, but he was just a cool guy.
What does he call you, Eddie or Ed?
Edster.
All right.
I sat down. He went, "Hey, Edster."
Did you? Oh, is you serious?
No.
Oh.
No. We talked everything. You know, we talked landscapes, markets, FROCH CHAVEZ, Brook, McDonald Comida. We've got a big fight coming for Ricky Burns with one of his fighters. Big fight coming for Stephen Smith with one of his fighters. I mean, we're doing loads of stuff together at the moment. So, and he's very, very aggressive in the marketplace, and he knows what he wants to do. And right now, I like what he's doing. I'd like to be an ally rather than an enemy. And I think we're going to do a lot of business together. What's
the latest on FROCH CHAVEZ then? What's holding us up?
Everyone wants to fight. You know, I think things are going to come to a head with his contractual situation. I think, you know, the kid's going to want to fight at some point, and I think over the next couple of weeks, fingers crossed, we can get FROCH CHAVEZ made potentially for the end of March
in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
What will FROCH do as regards to the 2 belts that he holds?
I think a lot of it depends on James DeGALE, and I want to make James DeGALE against George Groves, and I believe we can make that for a
Are they up for it, both of them?
I don't represent George Groves. I think common sense would show you that the money available for that fight, the interest in that fight, and the fact that if it can be made for a belt, it has to happen. The only thing that's going to stop it is the egos and the relationship between the fighters and the families.
Why would they risk a fight against each other when they're both mandatory for 2 different world titles?
Because it would be about 6 times the money. George Groves is going to have to travel to America to fight Anthony Durrell, and he's going to get beat.
Right.
So, I'm sorry, that's
your opinion, yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, you'd have to say on his last couple of performances, he's going to get beat by Anthony Durrell. He ain't going to get great money. He's on 75-25 split or whatever. And I like George Groves. I think he's always in good fights. I think he's become one of the biggest stars in British boxing. But why not? Let's just make DeGALE Groves. It's massive.
Yeah, of course. Love to see it.
Oh, good.
No, absolutely. But I just asked
why? Because you're going to fight for a world title for about 6 times the money.
So what title were you talking about they would fight for?
FROCH has got 2 titles. He's going to have to get rid of one. There has to be a solution. But 2 fighters are number 1 in certain divisions. They're both highly ranked in other governing bodies. So it can be worse.
I'm assuming that they would rather fight for the IBF than the WBA other title.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fights, isn't it? It's not, you know. I mean, do you really want to jeopardise that kind of fight, that kind of moment, that kind of money for, like, just because you? Oh no, but you know what I mean.
All right, if Frotch is to vacate
By
the
the way,
IBF,
this is a pipe dream.
yeah.
It's not like we're not like being around a boardroom earlier today. So
If Frotch is to vacate the IBF and DeGALE has to fight the next in line, who
could
would that
be
be?
Andre Durrell.
Durrell again.
If he's fighting Derek Edwards for the number 2 spot
Yeah.
again, so you could be looking at DeGALE, Durrell, and Andre Durrell. Tough fight, boring fight. Not a lot of money in that fight. And George Groves against Anthony Durrell, tough fight. Or just fight each other
The Durrells.
at a dirty great arena.
100%. Should definitely do everything you can to make that fight
that's what
happen.
we try and do.
When would you look to put that fight on?
February.
That
End of
early?
February, March.
Okay.
I'm telling you a lot here. I'm just
Yeah.
telling you what's ticking
Okay.
over in my mind. This is,
Right, I would have. Well, the irons hot. Brook Khan. What was he saying? Al Haymon about
everyone
Brook
likes
Khan?
that fight. Again, there's masses of money to be made out of that fight. I guess it all depends on if you fight Mayweather. I don't believe Mayweather if Khan's going to
What did Al Haymon say
I'm
about
not
him?
telling you. But look, he sees the size of the fight, and I don't think they know what Mayweather's going to do right now. Obviously, Khan's fighting on December 13th back on Sky. It's great news. Build towards that big fight with Kell Brook. I think everyone knows that.
Will you make an approach to them after the Alexander fight?
It's an ongoing conversation. You know,
But actually putting an offer in.
it's not an offer. It's to find terms, to sit down and find an agreeable split, probably for Khan Brook. So it's not a case of you know, and I think it's just to find mutual ground that everyone is interested in. But that's an ongoing conversation. You know, we're talking. You know, it's not just Al Haymon. You know, it's people who work with Al Haymon. We're making fights with all the time. You know, Jose Alusagan's boxing on Prizefighter on Saturday. He's an Al Haymon fighter. You know, just added him the other day. Asked to put him on. Yeah, go on. Yes, Al. Whatever, sir.
Eddie and Al.
Yeah.
That's great. Kell Brook, March the 7th. Who we're looking at? He's mandatory?
Probably the winner of Dan against Bizier.
Yeah. When is that fight?
Is it on the? I think it's next week in Canada. I think.
Is that on the same bill as Jean Pascal and Belanti?
Yeah, might be. Yeah.
That's this week.
This week.
This week.
Yeah. Kell's back in training, ready for the 7th. So make an announcement shortly.
Okay. Obviously, did you watch the Bad Blood show from the weekend?
Picked up on it. I watched most of it online this week. Look, I worry about our own business. Do you know what I mean? And it would be so easy for me to sit here now and slate their show and tell you how bad Fury Chisora was, and that the complaints they'd have and the ticket duplications, people were threatened and urinating all over the arena and so. But it's not. It doesn't really matter. You know. I can't be bothered. You know, that's their business. Our business is our business.
What did you make of the fights, the two main fights? Saunders Eubank first?
I thought it was okay. I mean, you know, I watched the other stuff. So I watched Mitchell Smith against the Eastern European, which was like
Zoltan Kovacs.
Then I watched Skeet against Frankie Gavin, which was like horrific. Then Eubank Saunders come on, so obviously the anticipation was there, and I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was a corker. I thought first 6 rounds, Billy Joe was comfortable, and then he ran out of steam, and Eubank did too little, too late. It's more like a circus because you got Eubank senior in the corner, and then you got Ronnie telling him stuff, and he's telling Ronnie to be quiet, and it's just that was more fascinating than the fight itself. But in terms of quality, I don't think it was, you know, world title level. But I thought it was okay. And you know, I think Eubank's a character. I think he's got a future. But I just from the get go, you know, I never understood why. And I take my hat off to him and the team that they'd want to take a fight like that with so much on the line that created so much interest for such small money. You know, and that's why I say I take my hat off to them because they gambled. You know, and they'll definitely come again. But I just couldn't get my head around it.
You're still not interested in doing anything with the Eubanks?
Yeah, we spoke before that fight. You know, it's just the hard work. We've said this a million times. You know, I see the grief that Frank Warren had with him, with the press conferences, but he does have a value. I'm not sure how good he is. And when you got your dad saying that you can beat Golovkin now and you're the next Sugar Ray Leonard, and then you can't beat Billy Joe Saunders, don't look great, does it? You know what I mean?
Chisora Fury?
I mean, again, look, I ain't going to slate fights, but it could have put a glass eye to sleep. You know, it was that bad. But the first fight wasn't really that good anyway. So, I don't know if people were expecting the second fight to be any good. But listen, Cleverly Bellew weren't a great fight. You know, people expected that to be wonderful. That's sport, isn't it? I think the problem was they messed the timings up so badly that by the time it came around, everyone had missed their train or wanted to go home or had been, you know.
But shows overrun, don't they? I mean,
yeah, but that's. I mean, listen, we overrun in Liverpool. What time was our main event? 11, 10, something like that. 11. I mean, it's not. Is it?
So, do you know when you schedule shows? Do you schedule them so they go the distance, or do you go, well, that one could end early, so?
We schedule. We expect every fight to go the distance, and then with the hope that a couple don't. But we wouldn't overrun till halfway. I mean, that show finished at after Steve Collins Jr. was in the ring at 2 o'clock. People have got to go home. You know, people have got to get home. But you know, I watched your interview with Frank yesterday. You know, and he said we've had a meeting and we've decided now that the chief support will be at 10 and the main event will be at 11. I mean, that's revolutionary. I mean, how long's it taken him to figure that out? Well, blimey. I mean, that's just standard, isn't it? I mean, but you know, on the other side, he has got fighters he needs to get out. So have we. So sometimes myself and Frank will say to the matchmaker, I've got to get him on. Sorry, I promised him to start. And the matchmaker's probably going, oh my goodness. The fact is at 5 o'clock that night, I phoned my old man up. I looked at the fight card. I said, they are absolutely screwed here. I said, Chisora Fury is not getting in the ring before 12 o'clock. And I'm just a novice. So what do I know?
Are you confident that Joshua will fight one of the 3 heavyweights he's been mentioned with?
We should have 3.
Either Price, Chisora or Fury next year?
Yes.
What one's more likely? Price, obviously.
A Chisora fight would make great sense for Joshua next. I mean, you have to, you know, I know you like to sit on the fence, right? But answer me this one question truthfully, and I don't think this is going to put you in an awkward position, because I know you don't like to be.
If you're going to ask me about if certain fighters would beat certain fighters, don't ask me that.
All right, but let me ask you this one question. Would Anthony Joshua have stopped Derek Chisora quicker than Tyson Fury did on Saturday night? I believe you can answer that question.
Possibly.
Right. I believe that 100% of people watching this would agree with me. Chisora is a great fight for Joshua next, but Chisora has also had a good career, earned a few quid. Does he want to go out like that against Anthony Joshua? The answer is probably no. Tyson Fury fight is a massive fight. It's a stadium filler, it's a box office event. Tyson Fury is a great young fighter, he's very smart. He knows the size of that fight. That can be built into a huge fight. End of the summer, winter, but Fury could get a shot with Klitschko later in the year. So you've got to expect him to try and chase that. It's a world heavyweight title. But I'm just looking at the big fights and getting asked about these kind of fights, and my response is, would love to make him. He beats them all.
Okay. Have you spoken to the McGuigans recently?
No.
Are you chasing that up or not?
No. I mean, look, they're going to fight Avalos. They've made Top Rank some offers, February 21st, February 28th, something like that. I think a deal will be reached, or it will go to purse bids. And then maybe
a deal for
Frampton Avalos.
Right. And you've got a little hand in the Avalos thing, haven't you?
No, I've been speaking to Top. I let him get on with it. I know the offers. I know the dates. I'm not trying to be like, you know. But if it goes to purse bids, I'll bid.
Okay. Did you speak to Haymon about anything else?
Yeah, I liked his shoes. I wondered where he got them.
And where did he get them from?
No, just listen. We're expanding all the time. We're not taking our eye off the ball in the UK.
Did you talk to him about Matchroom USA?
Yes.
And how likely is that?
Very likely. You'll see it at some point next year.
Is that you going over there to promote shows,
yes,
or is that?
Yeah. We've
name?
applied for promoters licenses in Nevada, California, Texas, and New York. So that's a big part of our strategy for 2015.
Who would run all that out there?
Me and you, Cougar.
No,
it's a big deal. It's setting up a division out there and an office. A few of the lads got excited. But it's what we want to do. I'm not, you know, I'm the kind of, I'm never someone that's happy with where we are or what we've got. And we've got a massive job to do in the UK. So people shouldn't look at this and go, oh, he's abandoning the UK. Absolutely not. This is our primary market. But we just want to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And, you know, we're going to be doing a lot of work with our Haymon. We'll do a lot of work with other US advisors and promoters. But, you know, we want to make FROCH CHAVEZ, we want to make DeGALE GROVES, we want to make Brook, we want to make Quigg Frampton, we want to make Fury Joshua, you know, and we can do it.
It's been a couple of weeks since the Bellew Cleverley card. Any indication of how the pay-per-view went?
Very well. I mean, the numbers were miles beyond expectations. Of course, we're all disappointed that Bellew Cleverley wasn't a great fight. Like I said, the first one was very good. I think virtually everyone expected the second one to be good. It was average. You know, it's sport. And like I said before in interviews, that's not a reflection of the way pay-per-view is going to go. There was an opportunity to do a pay-per-view on that date with a lot of big-name fighters and a great big domestic fight in Bellew Cleverley. All the fights I mentioned to you a couple of minutes ago, yes, they are standalone pay-per-view fights. Maybe with the exception of Frampton, Quigg, I'm not sure. No, but you know, you go like that, but I'm the one who's got to take the flak. So I'd rather FROCH CHAVEZ, DeGALE GROVES, Brook. No one can argue with them three. Joshua, Fury.
Do you think if you put on Quigg Frampton with Cleverley Bellew that anyone would have said a word?
No.
What, as in no one would have?
No one would have moaned.
No. So is that the way forward?
But then if Cleverley Bellew was a great fight, I don't think anyone would have moaned either. So you live by the sword.
Would you say you've learnt from that pay-per-view in particular compared to others about moving forward and maybe changing things?
Again, it was a one-off event. It wasn't this is what we're going to do with pay-per-view in the future. It was, there'd been one in May. This was number 2 of 2014. It's a big domestic fight with a lot of interest and a card packed full of top fighters. You know, and when you look at, for instance, the fighters who boxed, you know, I mean, people would rather watch George Groves in a dust up, 5-round tear up, knocking someone out, than watch Frankie Gavin against Bradley Skeet. Now you're talking about the Champions League against Conference South with a lot of these fighters, because you know Callum Smith or Mitchell Smith. I mean, it's like, no disrespect to Mitchell Smith, by the way, he's a good young fighter, and so is Skeet, but there's levels, you know. And I know people want to see great fights, but I didn't really see any the other night either. But that's just sport. But when you ask me what have I learned about that pay-per-view show, I've learned that sometimes in sport you don't get what you expect, and we took a hell of a lot of stick, and that's okay.
What about the 50-50 element? Will you look to?
Yeah, but look, Bellew Cleverley was a pure 50. The answer is, should there have been more 50-50s
Yes.
on the undercard? The answer is, we could have reduced the number of fighters and made a couple of more 50-50s. I take that on board, and that
was the biggest gripe, wasn't it?
But again, I go back to the mass market who want to see DeGALE, Groves, Joshua, Quigg, you know, and I could have just put like one other really big 50-50 and then not, and you still would have had people moaning. So you can't really win.
Happy medium, finding the balance between
perhaps,
the two.
Yeah. And listen, I'm not perfect. You know, I know you think I am, but you know, but I'm not. And we're learning all the time. I'm new to the game, but a couple of years in, I think overall we've done okay.
All right. Well, listen, Eddie, unless you have anything else to say,
I want to get home.
It's about 5 o'clock. Just think, years ago they used to hang people like you.
Did they?
Yeah.
People like you, mate.
Coogan-
Deviants.
Coogan Cassius, IFL TV with Eddie Hearn. Thank you very much.
Let's go.
The Big Fight, sponsored by 666bet.com.